God, I'm gonna have to edit that out. That sounds bad. Oh, I can smell someone barbecuing out here. Oh, you know it's spring now. God, that smells good. Okay, so we got parts for the KLX. We got the handlebars set up. We got fork spring, shock spring, air filter, some jetting stuff, and a few tiny little things to throw on there. So today we're gonna go pick that up. We're gonna come back home, bolt that shit in, and hopefully test it out if it's not too late.
Hi, kind sir. How are you today?
Good, you?
Welcome to Adventure. Just so happens you're on a day that we could use your physical abilities to restructure our entire showroom.
Oh, awesome. What do you got for me?
I have
Yes. Stuff.
lots of goodies.
Yeah, that's about right.
Those are nice.
That didn't work at all.
I can help you. Cool.
Okay.
I don't want you to lose anything.
All right, we're loaded up with parts. We'll see you guys back at the shop. Magical stuff. Let's see what we got. All right, so what we got here is the starting essentials for an adult play bike. Minus this big row of grips. I just really like these and I run them on everything. So we got handlebars, clamps, and cables and all that stuff. You can just buy a kit for this bike, but what fun would that be to just have the exact same setup as everybody else? So I did all the measurements and stuff, and this is gonna be about within a millimeter or two of the kit you actually buy, and it'll probably look a little cooler with the fat bars on there, so that's awesome. Topped off with the Renthal Kevlar grips. Your hands will thank you if you run these, and I'm not sponsored by these guys by any means. I buy these because I like them a lot. Then I got the longer cables for the handlebars to work. Got an air filter to get rid of the really big bulky air box on this thing, and I'll just sharpen up the throttle response a little bit, and I'm gonna rejet the carburetor to accommodate that. And then of course, we got shock spring, fork springs, because obviously this bike's kind of meant for little kids and it's not sprung for someone that's 180 to 200 pound range like most of the adults that ride them are. So these things will take care of that, so we'll rip the suspension apart, get those on there, and yeah. Well, I guess I should probably wash you before I do anything. Brr, that shit is cold. What should I start with first? Bars? Yeah, let's start with bars. I'm kind of interested to see if my calculations were correct. Well, I guess I didn't need the cables, did I? So my math was 50% correct. I'm calling that a win. Son of a bitch! So I should have saw that coming. I was hoping it wasn't gonna be like that, but it's something I've ran into on a couple Kawasaki's in the past with the OEM grips. They seem to somehow fuse the grip right to the throttle tube. Like, we're not talking it's glued on there, like it's part of that somehow. So now I get to probably spend the next little while carving all that rubber off. That's gonna be fun. I'm not filming that, so let's just go ahead and skip ahead. We got it. I don't know what they use to put these grips on. It must be like Superman's jizz or something, because that's no normal grip glue holding that on. Anyways, let's continue, shall we? I know some of you guys are gonna ask in the comments, so what I use to hold grips on is clear spray paint. Been doing it for as long as I can remember. I hate using grip glue because when it comes time to change the grips, that shit gets on everything and it's hard to get off. This, you can just razor blade your grips off and pop a new set on. So spray paint. Old bars, new bars. Old bars, new bars. Well, that's only like a bajillion times better. All right, so that was super simple. All we used was the Renthal RC High fat bars, which is one of the taller bars bends they make. And these are just the typical 1.1 adapters to put fat bars on, but the only difference is these have a 35mm rise to bring the bars up, which worked out to be about the same height as a set of mini bars that are for this bike. And this setup is way cooler, so awesome. All right, now the fun part. Let's get some suspension going in this bad boy. We're gonna start with the shock spring since that's incredibly easy to do. We just gotta compress the spring, pop the retaining collar off, new one goes back on, put it back together. Ew, it's red. It's a good thing we can powder coat this later on because that's gross. But I mean later, I'm not doing that right now. It's time consuming. And that's how easy it is to change a shock spring. Little bikes, big bikes, doesn't matter, same process. Moving on to the forks. Man, I really did a piss poor job in washing this thing earlier, didn't I? So the forks are a little bit more involved. These are still really easy to rebuild, maintain, whatever, because these are a really old school design, just an old emulsion style fork. There's not a ton of moving parts in there. The only difference with these is they don't have a normal cap on them like you would on pretty much any other fork you'd see that you just screw off and pull the spring out and away you go. These are a little more of a pain in the ass. You pull this little cap off here. Now, it's kind of hard to see, but in there you just got a little push cap that's held in with a little retaining clip type deal, which kind of makes them a big pain in the ass to take apart and put back together. Thankfully, we got the tools and the skills to do it. Now, don't go clamping your forks or any important part for that matter in a steel jaw vise. Trust me, you're gonna regret it. So what you gotta do is just push that little plug down. I use a T-handle because it's pretty easy to get leverage on and to hold on to. Push it down and then just pop this little circlip out of here. Sometimes it's a bit of an asshole to get out, but you'll get it. There we go. Come on. And then just rip the little plug out. Easy peasy. And that right there is some disassembled forks. So normally this is where we'd start putting the suspension back together, but this bike at some point is gonna get all powder coated up and look cool, so now is obviously an opportune time to powder coat these fork lowers. So let's get these sandblasted off and throw some black on them. All right, so while that shit's cooking, let's deal with the airbox on this thing and the whole carburetor situation. So this right here, this is our whole airbox slash air filter setup right now, which is pretty huge and unnecessary for this little bike. So we're gonna remove all this stuff and then just have this pod filter coming off the carburetor intake. And then we just have to rejet the carburetor to compensate for all the extra airflow going in, because obviously more air, you need more fuel. And it'll give us a, I don't know, maybe a little bit more power, but definitely a lot sharper throttle response. Well, that's all on now, but I turned the camera off about 30 seconds before I bumped into the tripod with my ass and knocked it all over. Now my little screen on this thing's all fucked up. Ugh. 1 step forward, 10 steps back. I'll mention my Patreon link down below if you want to jump on that. God, if a quarter of the people that watch these things did like $1 a month on there, holy shit, you'd see some serious stuff. Oh well, boo fucking who. Let's get back to work, because that's what this channel is all about, is putting in the work and earning shit. So, forks are ready to go back together. All this money in fork seal drivers, and I don't have the right one for this little bike. We're going ghetto. So thankfully these forks don't have a slider bushing on the inner tube like most forks would, which means I can actually hammer the seal in first and then slip this thing in afterwards. So, crisis averted. It's always a good idea to grease up your seals before putting everything back together, because you never want to slide in a shaft unlubed. So here's the old spring that came out. You can see it's pretty thin and kind of loosely wound. Here's the new spring. Much thicker material, about double the amount of coils, and means it's going to be able to take the weight of my fat ass jumping all over it. And there we go. Let's get this stuff back on. Oh yeah! That makes me a little less butthurt about smashing my camera on the ground. Well, I guess you should probably start it up and make sure it runs okay with that air filter too. Well, it definitely sounds snappier. Let's try and go for the shortest 12 o'clock of all time. Runs pretty good. So unfortunately it's dark and pouring rain outside, so we're gonna have to wait to test this thing out. But it definitely feels a lot better for a big person like me to be on. Starting to look a lot cooler already with the bars and black forks and stuff, but next we gotta get some different body work on here and a different seat and seat cover. I got that stuff on its way, and then start figuring out what colors to powder coat this thing. So I'll probably get that figured out sometime in the next couple days, get the powder ordered up, and then we'll probably just do piece by piece on this thing. I don't want to strip the whole bike down and have it apart for a week or two at a time. I'd rather just do like the wheels one day, put it back together, ride it, do the frame one day, put it back together, blah, blah, so on until it's done. That way there's no downtime on it. So hopefully you guys enjoyed it. I'm pretty stoked to get this thing out the next day or two and test it out. So obviously we're gonna be filming that. You'll see that in the next video or the one after that. And make sure you guys click all the links down in the description below, and we'll see you again in the next one.